So yeah, Nima, you had mentioned your Meraki collection. I mean, I'm really excited because I think that's on social media. Also, you bombarded social media with that collection, and it turned out to be a success.
Yeah.
So I mean, let's face it. I mean, I know you're humble about it, but let's talk about that. Take us through that entire experience. What does it mean? What did you do? Please tell me.
So basically, the collection was for my first solo exhibition at Bikaner House,
Yeah.
which was in August of 2023.
Okay.
So what I was actually trying to show is something very simple, and I was like, I want this collection to be a direct reflection of me. And so we again, like, there were lots of portraits. There was that collection incorporated three styles of work. So it had classical,
Yeah.
surrealist, as well as pop.
Wow.
And why all these three elements is because I feel like the pop came from living in the UK, living in London for
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
long. Surrealist came because I had somewhat studied about Salvador Dali. And then, when you're working as a full fledged artist, you want to almost incorporate everything into one. And that's something I was going for. I actually have a sculpture called Dali.
Wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
and which you will find at the Dali restaurant here,
Of
actually.
course. Okay.
It was there. So what I was trying to show in that is because you see, Rodin
Yeah.
is the master of romanticism,
Romance. Yeah.
correct? Dali is the master of surrealism.
Surrealism. Yes.
And what I was trying to go for is
A
compose a
mixture.
sculpture that speaks both.
Wow.
And that's where I came up with that idea, the sculpture. It took a lot of thinking, but
Did you end up selling that?
yeah, couple of editions. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. Okay, so that's actually big.
Yeah.
So I mean, how? I mean, take us through that process. Was there pressure?
No,
Because
it's
of
like,
course.
again, like, you see what an artist, what I was inspired by. And for me, even today, I think the biggest inspiration as a sculptor for me will always be Rodin, irrespective of my
Yeah.
style, whether I gravitate towards pop art or whether I gravitate towards surrealism or anything. I think for me, Rodin is,
Romances
yeah,
king.
yeah, he's the ultimate. Yeah, even like Michelangelo for that matter. I mean, what I personally really like about Rodin's work, if I can explain, is every time I see it, it's very simply done. And I really like to follow the concept of less is more, which,
Well said. Yeah. Of
yeah, I
course.
mean, less is more. I mean, there are not 100 details in his work. There's only the amount of detail that should be seen, which really speaks a lot about a fully trained artist.
Of course.
Because you can have, I mean, even for example, this sculpture, right? Like, I could have 100 details over here because we as human beings do. It is a human portrait at the end of the day. I can have, like, a deeper iris, for example, just to
Yeah.
show more depth. But then you have to make design choices, which I think Rodin did so beautifully with his sculptures. And a very good example of his sculpture is the Kiss.
Yes.
It's very it's very tangible, that work. It's almost like
That's
you
what
can touch it.
I'm just
Is it looking back at
glaring.
you?
Yeah, I'm glaring.
Is he looking back at you?
Yeah, he is looking back at me, and I think it's beautiful. This is the first time I would probably be staring into a man's eye. I mean,
Oh.
no, it's beautiful. Yeah, sorry, you were saying.
Yeah, so basically so that's how the concept of Meraki started coming up. And then I did the solo at Bikaner House, which went well. It was a bit of a break in my journey, I think,
Yeah.
because I had never shown such a large collection of work at one go. Otherwise I was doing like group shows, I was doing exhibitions, I was doing like 5, 10 sculptures, which is, again, it's when I think showing them at a younger age. I was like in my early 20s at the time. It was great, but then I think the moment I moved back to India, I was like, nobody had seen my work here. They'd only seen it on social media, right? I was like, I have to show it to people here. And that's when I
And
started.
Bikaner House was a success, from what I know as well.
Yeah, it definitely, I think so.
Bikaner House was a success. Sorry for the disruption. Yeah, so Bikaner House was a
Yeah.
success. But,
It was a very humbling experience because you see, when you're that early on in your journey, I'm talking a few years ago, it's very humbling to get the right encouragement from the right place. Otherwise, either it can like push you
Break you
forward
or
or yeah, exactly.
make
Like
you or break you.
yeah, it can. So I was very lucky to have that encouragement coming in because my biggest tool for me was social media. I leveraged Instagram, like
Everything.
posting and talking about my work, and that turned out.
Wonders
I
turn out to
think
be
it
wonders.
turned
But
out
yeah,
so.
because I can't even imagine. I mean, because we do a lot of exhibitions, and having a solo exhibition is big.
It's a lot of work. I'm
The
working on one
audios,
right
yeah,
now, and I know what's it doing.
the one in September.
Yes, it's a lot of work, and in the middle I have two more in London. So it's it's the best kind of pressure that you can have because at the end of the day, it's your work that's going out. It's your name that's going out, which is great. Like I mean, I love it. There's no complaints at
The
all.
attention, you love the
No,
attention. Yeah.
I just love doing it. And I mean, the attention, yes, it's a byproduct of the work.
But that's what exhibitions are for. I think exhibitions in India, one good thing about exhibitions in India, that over here people are pretty blunt as compared to, I think I've seen this as compared to the West. I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
People will give their 2 cents, and especially Indian uncle aunties. They will come and say the most horrid things possible about any artwork, and the fact being, you can't even argue with them because at the end of the day, on one end, you're trying to tell them that art is subjective, and when they are giving their 2 cents and saying absurdly insane things about artworks, you can't argue with them.
Yeah.
So I think you must have gone through something of that as well.
Yeah.
How do you think Niyamat Mehta became Niyamat Mehta?
Oh.
Or what is her identity when we talk about in the art world?
I
Too
mean,
deep a question?
yeah, it's quite deep. I didn't think that was coming, frankly. But I
Yeah.
think it just, I want to, I don't want to shy away from saying it obviously took a lot of work.
Of course. Okay, now this
I-
is a bookish answer. Now let's cut
I
the.
mean, it took a lot of work, and I wasn't, I think it, what really
bluntly.
helped, yeah, I know.
Treat this as a rapid fire
I know,
question.
I know.
Why
What
would I
really-
buy a Niyamat Mehta?
What really helped me is I started exhibiting really young.
Yeah.
Right, and I think I started putting my work out there
Out
really
there.
young, and whether it was through like online exhibitions on Instagram, like those even an exhibition where you have to pay 2,000 rupees to like get in, and like smaller exhibitions to actually make it to a solo, and then you feel confident actually talking. When you feel confident talking to people about your work, I think is a point where like, okay, this is who I am as an artist, and this is how I explain my work, because I think talking about artwork is an art in itself.
And I think one good
takes
thing-
which takes time.
Yeah,
because
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, you can have the most beautiful painting in your gallery and not being able to talk about it's not going to sell.
That's how-
you know?
And one thing I think I would like to add is one good thing about you, knowing you, is that you take a lot of constructive criticism very confidently. I think, and you add that feedback into your work. So I think that's also helped you.
Yeah.
But again, you didn't answer my question. Why a Niyamat Mehta and not a Om Swami or a Mosmi Biswas or an
I
XYZ?
can't compare myself to anyone.
I mean-
but I'll tell you, like, I think it's also to do with the journey, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think when you're buying an artist's work, it depends on the journey. And luckily, like, I went to a really good art school, which trained me well. Then
The youngest kid to get into Florence Academy of Art.
that was that. Then I worked in artist studios. I didn't settle into a routine directly. I was working in a very senior artist studio right after finished training. After that, I was like, okay, I want to explore the contemporary art scene. So I was working at Sotheby's and also like doing a course
Wow.
there. And then also teaching at the London Fine Arts Studio.
Yes.
So all these things like really, I think, had a very big impact on my work. Like this portrait that you're seeing here is done just a few months ago. I don't think I would have done this 5 years ago, or say 3 years ago, even 2 years ago. I don't think this would be done because the style is different. Like yes, the technique is very classical. It's something that I was taught, but at the same time, I don't think it's something that I would do with funky colors or rough surfaces,
Yeah.
very raw looking artwork. Say when like say 3-4 years ago, I don't think that was happening. I was in a very different headspace as well. Like I was like, okay, every sculpture should look like picture perfect, which as it should. but picture perfect.
I don't think so. I differ. Yeah.
Yeah, picture perfect means different for everyone. Like for me, okay, like this is cool, but for somebody else, it'd be like, oh, but it could be like smoother,
Yeah.
which is fine. I mean, each to their own. Like you said, it's subjective.
It's subjective.
Somebody may like it, somebody may not, and we respect everyone's decision. It's okay.
We have no choice but to accept everyone's decision.
that's
That is the harsh reality as well. But yeah, fair enough. I mean, Niyamat Mehta is Niyamat Mehta. Talking about Niyamat Mehta as well, do you find a sense of contentment in today's time, Niyamat? I, as a person, can never be content, and I'm pretty sure you're not, but still.
I mean, I feel like I'm also a person who wants to keep pushing forward. Um, One thing one of my mentors had told me when I was training is like, a sculpture is never finished.
Wow.
And that's something that really hit me, when a 20-year-old kid hears that.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, like that, because you keep thinking, okay, because you have deadlines to meet, and you're working on a sculpture for like 6 weeks or 5 weeks or whatever, or 10 weeks even, and you've been told this, the sculpture is never complete. So now that you're working as a full-fledged artist, you're like, okay, it's actually never complete, because I could be working on this for 10 years and not be bored.
Wow. But yeah, this is
I don't think,
so true.
I mean, see, contentment is something that comes with time, and also, like I said, I feel like it's not healthy to be satisfied.
I agree.
I
So-
mean, you can be like, okay, I'm good to go, but I don't think it's healthy to be satisfied, because I think once you hit that point, it's like, okay, how are you going to grow?
To be honest, I don't think why contentment as a terminology is such a positive term. I mean, I'm being very honest. I'm not kidding. Because I think I wouldn't want to even socialize with a content person. I'm being very honest.
Wow, okay.
Because I think, especially when it comes to work.
Yeah.
Because I think career, when you know that, oh, you've done your bit and you don't want to add more to the society, okay, forget society, to yourself, and you don't want to add more to yourself, I think you're dead, you're brain dead.
Of course.
I mean, as bluntly putting it, I think you're brain dead.
Yeah.
And after that, nothing that comes your way will appeal. So I think contentment should never happen at such an early age, of course, as you said.
Yeah, like you're always pushing forward, right? Like you're trying to get your work into like the best galleries, trying to get your work on the best, I don't know what best, but like to good art collectors, and like trying to really push forward out there. And it's a hustle, and which you do very humbly and very
Humbly.
gracefully, because I think one thing as a young artist, or I think anyone young for that matter, should be open to is a lot of rejection.
Yes.
I'm sure you face that as a gallerist as well, because you're trying to pitch in an artwork to 10 people and they all 10 say no.
Yeah.
And that happens. I mean, you show an artwork to 10 galleries and we don't need artists right now, which is, it's part of life, and I think it happens. But at the same time, I don't think I think you can be unhappy for like 4 hours and then bounce back up.
Yeah. So I think I'm going to end this on this note that, yeah, contentment is something which is, again, to each its own. Everyone has their own phases of being content, but as you said, keep pushing yourself. Like, I would want to see Niyamat Mehta at a certain stage after 10-15 donkey years, because me as a gallerist has seen a lot of artists, I don't want to name them again, after certain years of being on cloud 9, they've not been working now.
Yeah.
And now if you talk about those artists, when someone comes to me and asks about those artists as well, even I as a gallerist doesn't want to sell their works. I'm like, that guy has no vision.
I think for me, it's like, when a gallerist, because now I'm working with so many galleries, even the ones overseas or even like here, this is almost like selling your energy, And this sounds really funny, but it's so relatable to me as an artist. Like you have spent like hours and hours working on the same artwork.
Yeah.
It does have some element of you in it.
Yeah.
It's like, when you're in high school, a teacher can instantly recognize your handwriting.
Yeah.
I don't think the art world's any different.
I don't think
What?
I don't want to give gallerists the credit. I mean, because I am one. But yes, I know where you're coming from.
it's in a way, like you know when you walk, when you see a Raza, you know it's a Raza, or when you see a Mark Rothko, you know it's a Rothko, right? The
And when
same
you
way
see a
it's,
Niyamat, you know it's a Niyamat. Yeah.
yeah, like,
Marketing, guys, marketing.
so like, you know, and I think every artist has their own language, and everybody's expressing themselves in like very different ways, but it's the same story.
True. Do you have your journey planned now? I mean, moving to the last segment of our podcast, do you think you have your journey planned,
I don't think it's planned, but I
or do you have
like,
a vision? I mean,
I obviously the vision is to keep growing,
wow,
right?
okay.
Like that's the vision, and to keep growing, and like I said, like getting my work onto the hands of like good people, doing more and more exhibitions. Now the bar is coming. Uh,
Hopefully, yeah,
yeah, like, you know, like things like this, and just growing. That's the
yeah.
vision. And once there's a break in the vision, then you know, okay, like, you know, this is working.
There are phases, Niyamat. I think
Yeah.
there are phases in everyone's life, even a gallerist's life.
Yeah.
I think from what I can suggest is forget fame, forget anything, forget
Yeah.
everything. As you said, just keep
Keep doing,
working.
yeah, just keep doing it. And like at the end of the day, like you like what you do, so it's
You like
fine.
what you do. And the thing is, when you have a stock of 40, 50, 100, 200 odd pieces, that's the time when you actually sell.
Yeah.
I'm not kidding. And this is
Yeah.
out of experience I'm talking about. I mean, in today's time, I would obviously want to go to an artist or a sculptor who has stock of his work.
Yeah.
And they have stock because every day, day and night, they've only been working, working, working,
Yeah.
working. And then you choose out of that pool, of course.
Yeah.
So my suggestion to you is just keep on making,
Of course.
have stock, and then hopefully, I mean, forget Anya. I think there will be more galleries around the world who
No,
would
no,
also be
now we will
collecting.
only do Anya.
No, of course. Anya is a big brand name, guys. I mean, not a joke. What is the biggest misunderstanding people have about being a sculptor?
I think people think it's very like muscle oriented, and I think everybody who thinks of a sculptor, they normally think of a hammer and a chisel, which is not entirely true.
Yeah,
I think that's the
I kind of agree with
right.
you.
Like,
Yeah.
and also people who don't know, like they think it's very very male dominant profession,
Yeah.
whereas it's really not. Like we've got, even in art history, right? Like I think one of my favorite sculptors, she is Camille Claudel, and she's from Paris, and
Of
she
course,
has
I
a
mean,
museum named after her in
yeah.
Paris. Yeah, and like, and in India we got Bharti Kher.
Bharti, Mosmi Biswa. I mean, young ones
Exactly.
also I'm talking about. So yeah, I think
There's so many. And
I hate when gender comes into art. Like, yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we've had clients as well who say, "Acha, ladki ne banaya" versus "ladke ne banaya."
it doesn't
Well,
matter.
irrelevant. I mean,
Yeah,
me
it
being me,
doesn't
I think
matter.
it's absurd,
Yeah.
and not because she's I'm saying that it's absurd. Have you ever started a piece and just couldn't finish it? You were just like, forget it, man. Not my cup
I've
of tea.
not finished it. I probably have left it for like a week, 10 days, 15, 20 days, whatever, and then gotten back to it. Because I think sometimes what happens is that when you're working on something for so long, you actually need a fresh eye.
Yeah.
So then you just start doing something else. Like you start like working on a different sculpture.
Yeah,
or
that's
like
fair.
just
That
like
happens.
not going into the studio for like a few days or something. Like, and that's normal, and that happens.
Yeah, that's I
totally
think normal.
fine.
You need to take a breather. I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the hardest part about turning something deeply personal into something public?
I think there's a way to do it. That's one. And how you express it in bronze or like tangible materials is the way to go.
Would you want to share a personal story which you must have inculcated in your one of your sculptures? Anything personal?
Yeah, I mean, I had a sculpture called Nicole. So we had 3 editions, all 3 went. I didn't even do more after that.
Wow. Okay.
So they went to like, because they went to like really good places and private collections and stuff. So I was like really humbled by that.
Okay.
How that sculpture started was I met Nicole in Florence because she was a ballet dancer.
Okay.
And obviously, like, you know, when you're there, you love like going for these culturally rich evenings with your
Events,
friends
yeah,
and all
yeah.
that stuff. And it's part of your learning.
Yeah.
And even now, like, I mean, you have such beautiful plays playing at Kamani Auditorium here
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
Like, it's so nice to see. It's culture, right? She was performing one of the evenings, and I was like, you know, I have to go tell her that it was like the stage was on fire. Like, she really, really nailed it that evening. I had no idea who she was. But I went up to her after the performance and said, "Listen, like it was fantastic, but would you mind coming to my studio and pose for me?" And she didn't really understand what I said because I don't think she'd never done it before. And she was obviously like a lot older to me, right? She was like 10, 12 years
Oh,
older than me.
wow.
So, but I said, no, like you should come and it will make you like really comfortable and all that stuff. So that turned out to be really nice. So like I made a portrait of her, and then that portrait became a part of the Meraki collection.
I think I've seen this on Instagram.
You
Yeah,
definitely
yeah.
have. So yeah,